Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is the review of the Sigma 17-50 2.8 OS. Stay tuned. Here we have the Sigma 17-50 2.8 OS lens. I've been living with this lens for, I don't know, a couple months now, and it took a while for me to actually take it out of the bag and use it. One of the first times I actually used it was with when I went and shot the Philadelphia Flyers, and I was sitting behind the glass. I used this to shoot some video as well as take some still shots from behind the net. Even one of the photos of the week, which was captured with this, which we're going to show you a little later, it did a very nice job. But let's do a rundown of the build quality, and after this I'm going to do a screen flow, which is going to talk about the quality of the images, which is almost the most important thing here. The very first thing I noticed when I took this out of the box was I heard this wiggly thing going on. I'm like, what is that wiggly noise? And it's the lens hood. Partly the lens hood and the elements inside shaking around. The lens hood does not, you can hear it click in, but look, just a subtle touch and it's spinning off. I am not happy that the lens hood just is barely connecting. Now, I don't know if it's just the copy that I have, but somebody emailed me last week and said, asked me the same thing. Does your lens hood stay on? Because it really doesn't stay connected. Now, that's not a good thing. And it doesn't even stay connected backwards, bayonet style, which means in your bag it's going to come off. It's possible it's going to fall off. Say you're on a boat and you're taking a picture and the wind blows or somebody bumps you and boom, oops, the lens hood goes. You're out a lens hood, and we know how important the lens hood is. It's something that you really want to use every time you're shooting, and it's pretty tough with this one because it doesn't want to stay connected. Now, I'll ask Sigma if it's just my copy or it's just this. They'll probably send me another one, but that's that. There's a lock built into this lens so that when you can lock it in at 17. This is not something that I use, and I think it's something that it doesn't breathe. That's the breathing. Means if it was to slip when I would point it down, a lot of lenses do slip when they do that. But the lens is fine. It's heavy. It seems to be built pretty well. Looking at the front element, I do not use a filter, but if you were to use a filter, it would be a 77mm filter. It says made in Japan, and it's a 17-50 2.8 EX DC OS. This is designed for DX cameras. They make it for Nikon, Canon, Sony, so you can pick that up. You've got your AF and manual switch on the side, so if you wanted to switch into manual, it's a very short little manual range. I wonder if it goes further this way. Nope, it's a very short manual range, but that's fine. I used it in autofocus. The focusing is fine. It tracked very well for shooting the Philadelphia Flyers, which is a professional sports game, but on a wider angle, focus is, it's still going to be pretty good because it has the focusing motors built in. That's that HSM motors. You have your OS, and I've left it on quite a bit. I've used this lens a little bit at night where I've maxed not maxed out, but shot the D7000 at about 3200 or 4000 under street lights to see what it could do, and we're going to get into that a little more when I move into the screen flow. But the OS, it's a nice function to have. I believe this lens is $699, which puts it right in the middle. They discontinued their 18-50 2.8, which I really liked at $399. Even though it didn't have the OS, I was okay with that. So, it's tough. I'll get to a full recommendation at the end of this video, but at $699, it's not terrible because you'd be spending over $1,100 for the Nikon version or the Canon version if you were on Canon. I do say if you can pick up one of those used, like a 17-55 Nikon used, it's a good steal if you can get it used. But let's get into the screen flow. Let's take a look at the sample images, a lot of which I took in Utah, in Park City, and really see how this lens handles everyday shooting in terms of quality. So we'll be right back with the screen flow and my thoughts on how this lens worked and if I think it is a buy or a don't buy. All right, we're back. Now let's go into the review of the actual photos that I took with this lens, the Sigma 17-50 2.8 OS. So like I said in the first video, I've had it for a couple of months, been playing around, and then these are sample shots that I have And I will be putting up the full res for you guys to download so you can see for yourself. You can pixel peep if you really, really want to, but I am not going to do that. And I did misspeak in the first video. It's $669 for the lens, so it's not as bad as $699, and you may be able to get it less or for less depending on where you call and who has it. So when I first got it, I took pictures of the stickers that came in, and one thing that I noticed, I was at 40 millimeters, I was leaned in pretty close. You see we're sharp here. We're good to go right here, right? And then I ventured over to here, and I was like, oh my God, the fall off near the edges. I had major, look at the major fall off over here. And I don't know if this is something that happens maybe the way that I was standing, or was it the way that I was holding the lens, but it's, you know, it's pretty noticeable, the fall off as you get further on to the edges. And this is also at f4, but it's not really a deal breaker at this point. It's a little less here. I'm wider here at 34 millimeters. It's so you can see that it's sharper right here than it was in the other picture. And same thing as we move over to this side. You do see zoomed in at, what are we at, 1:1? That there is some purple fringing, but again, you're zoomed in 1:1. Not a major deal. Don't go over the top. This is much nicer. This is a shot at 44 millimeters of the back of the MacBook Pro, showing you where I put the Fronos Photo sticker. But I'm happy with this. This looks fine. And now we're going to get into real world shooting, because you know I'm not a big fan of testing image, testing quality, or IQ as people call it, and shooting charts and putting it through extreme, well, I'm okay with putting it through extreme circumstances, just not trying to find issues. I just shoot it and see what we come up with next. This was a shot that I did a photo of the day, 22 millimeters, on the D. All of these are on the D7000. This is shooting through double thick glass behind the net, and I could not shoot with my 70-200 2.8, and I had to use something wider because the glass messed with the image. So you had to shoot wide or you would have lost total quality. And this lens held up extremely well. Sure, there's pixels and it's pixelated, but a lot of that issue is the glass that I was shooting through. I didn't have a photo hole, which is an opening in the glass which allows you to shoot right through it without anything in the way. If I was shooting on the side, through this glass over here, that's only single pane glass, I would have been much better off. But instead, I was behind the net. It's twice as thick because it takes twice the beating behind the net. But I am really happy. I don't see the same fall off happening over here as we got on that very first image. This is a solid, colorful, sharp image that the lens did, and I'm really happy with this picture. And this is a real-world situation where this lens could be used. Black and white here. This isn't punchy enough for me. I'm going to pump it up a little bit more. It's black and white because I just wanted to show a black and white, because refs wear stripes. They are black and white. You're supposed to be black and white, and there's no gray areas. Really happy with this shot. This is ultra wide, well, not all the way wide. It's at 22 again. Very solid front and back. Nice clarity in the background here. Even though it's shot at 2.8, he's out of focus. But when you shoot wider, you're not going to blow the background out as much. Nice angle. 17-50 is a nice range. Let me get out the trusty old calculator. I remember, I think it's a 25.5 to about 83. 50 times 1.5 on the Nikon is a 75. And 17 times 1.5 is a 25.5. So that is a nice wide range, considering on full frame you use a 24-70. So this to be 25.5 to 75 is a nice range. And I'm happy with the focus. It was able to focus through the hockey game and stay up with the play. That is very important when you're testing out a lens. Same thing here. Dan Carcillo was skating in. Not the greatest hockey picture in the world, but just wanted to show it. We'll zoom in here. He's wearing Graf skates for those of you who are hockey fans. And you move up here, you can see how sharp it is right around here. Again, going through the glass is the issue. That's why it's not the sharpest you would ever see. This guy's sharp right here, which is great. You can see Coetzee on the bench. You can see Berube on the bench. So you're getting some nice background information. It's not terrible. Then we move into Lil shots. Shot at, what are we at, 800 ISO? Yep. 800 ISO. Look what the lens is picking up. It's picking up dust that is in the air because the sun is coming in through the back window. Again, you don't see any flare. This is important. I didn't even think about this when testing until I got it in the computer. You do not see terrible ghosting or lens flare coming in, which is saying something that they must have a coating on here that is really handling light very well, because you could see the people put the lens flare in there. I don't like lens flare, so didn't get any lens flare here. Very happy with the color, very happy with the clarity. Same thing as we move here to pick up all of this dust in the air. That's very good. I wanted to show an ultra wide, fully wide at 17. You can see the perspective that I'm picking up here. Very nice wide angle of Lil working. So this lens is an everyday shooting lens. 17 to 50 and then 70 to 200, 2.8. This is a lens that you pick up when you're shooting, say, D7000 and below. If you're a D3100, D5000, Rebel T2i, Rebel T3i, Canon 60D, Canon probably 7D. It's a good lens. It's a good range to put on that camera at $669. You will totally be able to sell this lens back for $600 to somebody else when you're ready to move up and making money. But if you're not looking to step up to become a pro, you just love shooting and you want better glass, it's a solid choice at $669 to go with this lens. You're going to be very happy with the quality. Like I said before, I would be curious to see if this not staying in of the lens hood is my lens only, or if it's a thing across the board. But being that I've heard somebody else said the same thing, I think it could be something across the board. But that's not a deal breaker. It's solid. I'm happy with it. It's a nice heavy lens. $669, not bad. Like I said, though, if you can find a used 17 to 55, either Nikon or Canon, for maybe $150 more somewhere, maybe on Craigslist, or maybe somebody's selling it used at a store, it's going to be a steal of a lens. I would consider doing that if you can find it. But if you can't, the 17 to 50 here is a very good choice. And I'm very happy with this lens. Again, look, we're zooming all the way in. Look how sharp this is. We're at 800... No, now we're at 1600 ISO. You can see how solid it is, and it's blowing the background out. Very nice. So it's separating that, which is bringing the subject out, which is much better. I just threw in a low light shot. Not too much distortion. It could be the angle. You know, the pole over here is pretty straight. It handled low light very well. I mean, I'm sure the camera has a lot to do with that, but you can see that it didn't totally mush out and lose contrast and clarity. Now shooting in Utah, shooting at 17 here, I noticed again a little bit of fall off up top. Nice and sharp right here. Nice and sharp right here as well, and everything in the background. Nice colors, nice clarity. And I shot this so you could see just the sharpness going. It's at f2.8, so you can watch as it fades off into the distance, and it looks good. Same thing here. I focused a little further back. It's a solid image. Look how sharp this is from here to here. And then as we start to blow out of focus, the nice bokeh is being created from the lens, which is nice. Even more here, because now I moved my focus from further back to right here. Look how sharp that is. That's very nice. And you can see how the background blows out and gives you a nice image. That's what you're getting with the 2.8. And here's another prime example of not really getting lens flare. This is literally shooting right into the sun, and all you have is this little halo. I don't have a whole stripe of lens flare coming through the whole image, and you know that's something that happens with the lower end lenses. So it held up very well. These are just samples to show you backgrounds blowing out, sharpness. This is nice. I like it. You know, not much you can say about this. This was the photo of the week. You can see the nice colors that we were able to pull out of this, and I upped my vibrance, upped my saturation slightly. The image is nice and sharp, holds up very, very well, even at, what did I say, 500 ISO. That's not bad at all. Then just a sign of the street. So overall, you've seen a lot of images here, and I'm going to put them up for you to review. I wanted to show you this many to show you different types of situations and call out, you know, where the lens has its downsides. And one thing is the lens hood, and another is a little bit of fall off on the edges. But again, it's an amateur lens that you're going to use before you step up to get to, say, a full frame body. If you're getting into a D3S, you're gonna get into, we'll say, the 7D. Maybe you want to rethink it. I know I said it earlier that it may be good on a 7D, but you may want to rethink that because it's more of a professional camera. So on a D300S, when you're on the borderline of being a professional, getting paid for your work, it's gonna work. I could use this on a photo shoot without a problem and really not have any issues with it. I already own the 24-70 Nikon, so that's what I use on my full frame. I could see putting this on the D7000 to carry around all the time if I didn't want to spend the $1,100 or so for the Nikon version, or for the Canon version for that matter, on a T3i. But, you know, I could see letting somebody use this on a D7000 and being very happy with it, and then being able to turn around and sell it for the same amount, just about the same amount of money. Figure if you lose $100 on the lens and you had it for a year and a half to 2 years before you sold it, you like rented it for $100. So overall, it's, what do you want to give it? If I was to give it out of 10, you know, 80, 8. I'd give it like an 8. You know, it's a B. It's ranked like a B plus, where, you know, the Nikon version's like a 24-70. It's like a 10 of like 11. I'd go to 11 with how awesome and sharp that lens is. This lens is there. I mean, it has its downsides, but again, you know, you're saving money. You're not really trading off too much image quality for saving that money, especially when you're shooting with the beginner type cameras. It's a perfect starting point. So, you know, I do recommend it both on the Nikon, the Canon, and also on the Sony end. If you have a Sony, it's a good tweener lens that's going to take you to becoming a professional, especially in your 5-year plan. It fits well with a 70-200 Sigma. You know, 70-200 Sigma, now it's $949, or depending on where you buy it, it could be $900. You throw one of these on there, 17-50 that is, and you're looking at terrible math. So $1,000 and $600, you're looking at $1,500-ish or so dollars, and you have 2 lenses that are going to allow you to shoot everything, especially if you're shooting a wedding or shooting sports. You're going to have the full wide all the way to the full telephoto. So I've talked a lot. That's about it. Pretty good. You see my recommendation. You've heard my recommendation. You can look at these pictures, see what you think for yourselves. Any questions you have about the lens, let me know. But I do think it's a good lens for those guys, you know, coming up. It's a good holdover lens. It's a good starter lens. It's going to get you there. And it's also a great lens if you're just a person who loves shooting. It's going to get you there and get you some solid images. So that's the Sigma 17-50 2.8 OS. Hope you enjoyed the review. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya!